The cafe went silent in the strangest way, not because something loud had happened, but because something fragile had. Sunlight streamed through the wide glass windows, warming the polished wooden floors and casting golden lines across half-empty tables. In the middle of that gentle afternoon glow stood a girl with one leg, balancing carefully on her crutches, her shadow trembling slightly on the tiles. Her voice was soft, but it carried across the room like a question the universe itself was asking. If you believe in kindness and second chances, take a moment right now to like this video, comment your thoughts, share it with someone who needs hope, and subscribe to Whisper Tales 3. Your support keeps stories like this alive. The girl's name was Era Rahman. She couldn't have been more than 19, her dark hair tied back in a low ponytail, her expression a mix of courage and practiced resilience. The prosthetic beneath her loose jeans was barely visible, but the crutches were not. They announced her presence before she ever spoke. She had learned long ago that people noticed the missing limb before they noticed her smile. Across from her sat Kabir Ansari, a 34-year-old single father whose world revolved around the little boy perched in the chair beside him. Kabir's hands were rough from long shifts at a printing press, his shirt sleeves rolled to his elbows, his eyes tired but attentive. His son, Ryan, was 6, small for his age, and clutching a toy car like it was a lifeline. Since Ryan's mother had passed away 2 years earlier, Kabir had become both anchor and sail for his son. The cafe was crowded that afternoon, every table taken except for the 2 empty chairs at Kabir's small corner table. Era stood there, steadying herself, and asked in a voice that tried to sound casual, "Can I share this table?" Kabir looked up. He had seen that look before, the one that braced for rejection before it even arrived. He understood it in his own way. As a widower in a world that moved too fast, he often felt like a leftover piece in a puzzle that had already been solved. He nodded immediately, gesturing to the empty chair. He told her she was more than welcome, that there was plenty of space. Era smiled with visible relief and carefully lowered herself into the seat. The sunlight caught her face, highlighting faint scars near her knee where metal met flesh. She placed her crutches neatly beside the table and thanked him, her voice steadier now. At first, they sat in polite silence. The clinking of cups and soft chatter filled the space between them. Ryan stared at Era's prosthetic leg with open curiosity. Children, unlike adults, rarely pretended not to notice. Instead of shrinking under his gaze, Era leaned slightly toward him and told him it was her superhero leg, built with titanium and stubbornness. Ryan's eyes widened with wonder. Kabir felt something shift inside him. He had grown used to people either staring too long or looking away too quickly when confronted with pain. But here was this young woman, turning her loss into a story that made a child smile. As the afternoon stretched on, bits of conversation began to form. Era shared that she had lost her leg in a bus accident 3 years earlier on a bright morning much like this one. She had been on her way to her first university exam. In a single violent second, the future she had imagined shattered. Recovery had been long, painful, and humiliating. Friends drifted away. Strangers whispered. She had to relearn how to stand, how to walk, how to trust her body again. Kabir listened quietly. He didn't interrupt with pity. He simply listened. Then, almost without meaning to, he shared his own story, how Ryan's mother had fallen ill so suddenly, how hospital corridors had become more familiar than their own home, how he had promised her he would keep their son laughing no matter what. Pain recognized pain at that small cafe table. It did not compete. It simply existed, shared in the soft daylight between sips of tea. Outside, the world bustled. Inside, something tender was unfolding. Ryan, emboldened by Era's warmth, began showing her his drawings from school. She admired each scribble as if it were a masterpiece. Kabir noticed how naturally she spoke to his son, not with forced cheerfulness but with genuine interest. For months, Kabir had carried a silent fear that Ryan was missing something essential, a mother's gentle presence, a woman's warmth in their home. He had tried to be enough, but sometimes at night he wondered if enough would ever truly be enough. Era, on the other hand, had grown accustomed to eating alone. Even when surrounded by people, she felt like an outsider looking in. Sharing that table had been a risk. Every new interaction was. Yet here she was, laughing at a 6-year-old's joke about a flying car, sunlight glinting in her eyes. As the cafe began to empty, Kabir hesitated before speaking again. He asked if she came there often. She admitted she did, mostly because it was close to her physiotherapy center. It was her way of practicing independence, taking herself out into the world instead of hiding from it. He admired that. Truly admired it. When it was time to leave, Kabir stood first, helping Ryan with his small backpack. Then he turned to Era and, without making a spectacle of it, offered his arm for support as she stood. She accepted, not because she needed help to rise, but because she sensed the sincerity behind the gesture. Outside, the afternoon sun was bright, casting long shadows on the pavement. For a moment, the three of them stood together, an unlikely trio stitched together by chance. Kabir surprised himself by asking if she would like to join them for a walk to the nearby park. Ryan immediately cheered. The park was alive with children's laughter and the hum of life. As Ryan ran ahead, Kabir slowed his steps to match Era's pace. They spoke about small things, favorite books, dreams postponed but not abandoned, the strange resilience of the human heart. Era confessed that she sometimes feared she would always be seen as incomplete. Kabir stopped walking then, looking at her with a steadiness that felt like sunlight itself. He told her that some people break and become bitter, but others break and become brave. He said she was the bravest person he had met in a long time. For the first time in years, Era felt seen, not as the girl with one leg, but as a whole person with a whole heart. Days turned into weeks. The cafe table became a quiet ritual. Ryan began calling her his titanium friend. Laughter returned more easily to Kabir's home. And slowly, cautiously, something fragile began to grow between two wounded adults who had once believed their best days were behind them. Life did not suddenly become perfect. There were awkward conversations, skeptical relatives, moments when old grief resurfaced. But there was also persistence. There was patience. There was the shared understanding that broken does not mean beyond repair. One bright morning, months after that first question in the cafe, Era stood at the park watching Ryan chase pigeons while Kabir stood beside her. The same golden sunlight wrapped around them. She realized that the most important steps she had taken were not with her prosthetic leg, but with her heart. If this story has touched your heart even a little, please take a moment to like, comment, and share. Your engagement helps more people believe that healing is possible. And before this story ends, I have one special request for you. Comment the word hope below if you believe that even the smallest act of kindness can change a life. Because sometimes, all it takes to rewrite a destiny is a simple question asked in a quiet cafe on an ordinary afternoon. And sometimes, when someone says yes to sharing a table, they are really saying yes to sharing a future.